Good evening, everyone. I am Trevor Alt in for Linsey Davis. We're coming to you with breaking news tonight. Just minutes from now, 3 Americans and a U.S. green card holder will arrive here on U.S. soil after a historic prisoner swap. You see there live images of Joint Base Andrews as we await the arrival of those Americans. They are in flight right now. The President of the United States, the Vice President also on site to greet them. We'll be keeping a close eye on the tarmac and bringing you any updates as we get them over the course of the next hour. What we can tell you is that 24 prisoners in total changed hands in this deal, 7 different countries involved. This is the biggest prisoner swap since the fall of the Soviet Union. And this exchange has been months in the making. The prisoners flown from Russia to Turkey today, then handed off to U.S. officials. Among them, American Paul Whelan, who was detained in December of 2018. He traveled to Russia for a wedding. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich also released. And that is the staff at the Wall Street Journal applauding in the newsroom. The Journal calling it a joyous day that Gershkovich has been released. In all, Vladimir Putin turning over 16 prisoners. He did get 8 back in return, including a Russian hitman convicted of killing a Chechen rebel in Berlin. Well, at the White House, President Biden today spending time with families of those released in the Oval Office. You see them there. We have full team coverage tonight with our Jay O'Brien. They're at Joint Base Andrews, along with Selena Wang at the White House, and Patrick Reevell joining us from overseas, along with many other guests to give us some more context on this. First, our reporter Jay O'Brien is there at Joint Base Andrews, where those 3 Americans are all coming in, along with that green card holder as well. They are expected to land soon. So, Jay, what do we know about the arrival of this plane, at least so far?
Yeah, Trevor, expected to land very soon, and they will land right here behind me at Joint Base Andrews. We know that the Vice President will be here, along with, of course, President Biden and the families of those 3 formerly imprisoned Americans who are on board that aircraft now. They are they are Aslu Kurmasheva, they are Evan Gershkovich, and, of course, Paul Whelan. This will be a tearful reunion for these families, we know. President Biden said as much earlier in the day for all 3 of these families, but chief among them, of course, Paul Whelan, whose family has not seen him in nearly 6 years. Evan Gershkovich, more than a year in captivity. For Kurmasheva, about nearly a year in captivity. President Biden saying of Paul Whelan's sister is something that is emblematic of all these families we have heard, which is that she practically lived in the Oval Office, meeting with President Biden and other senior administration officials, advocating for her brother's release. So this expected to be a tearful reunion here on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews, Trevor.
Yeah, so that's what I would love if you could give us some color there, Jay. I know that while it might be a little bit before this plane arrives, there's going to be a lot of family members there. We spoke earlier this evening with the family of Aslu Kurmasheva. They said that they were going to be there. Who are you seeing, and what's this buildup like, especially with the president and the vice president there, too?
Well, we expect them to arrive imminently here, Trevor. The families are not here yet, to our knowledge, and the president is not here yet. The aircraft will arrive, it's expected within the hour, although it's still to be determined exactly when it's going to land. That we know that as far as the guest list, the best that we know is that President Biden, the vice president, will be here, as well as Aslu Kurmasheva's family, the Whelan family, and, of course, Evan Gershkovich's family. The other thing I can tell you is that we know that there are reporters for the Wall Street Journal here, some of whom who are here to cover this event, and others who are just here to greet Evan Gershkovich. We also know that the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal is with the Gershkovich family. The Wall Street Journal has put out reporting that demonstrates just how detailed Evan Gershkovich's family was in advocating for his release, particularly his mother and his father, who went to Russia, who privately, as I mentioned, as the same goes for Elizabeth Whelan, were advocating for Evan's release privately with U.S. officials and officials overseas as well. Point being, this is a long time coming for these families that have been waiting every single day for this moment. And as far as we know, it will be the families, the president, and the vice president. And that is it for, again, this expected to be emotional reunion.
All right, Jay O'Brien for us, and we'll come back to you in a little bit as we get more developments. In the meantime, Jay, let's head over to the White House now. The president, of course, today made this major announcement this afternoon. He credited friendships among allied countries for this prisoner swap, including Germany, Poland, and Slovenia.
They stood with us, and they made bold and brave decisions, released prisoners being held in their countries who are justifiably being held, and provided logistical support to get the Americans home. So for anyone who questions whether allies matter, They do. They matter.
And joining us now is senior White House correspondent Selena Wang for us there at the White House. So, Selena, a lot of moving parts here. What exactly have we learned from the Biden administration about how this whole deal came together?
Yeah, Trevor, this was a huge diplomatic victory. It took years of painstaking negotiations to achieve the most complicated and the largest prisoner swap since the Cold War. And we're learning that President Biden was personally very deeply involved in these negotiations. In fact, just 1 hour before he announced on July 21st to the world that he was going to drop out of this presidential race, he was actually on the phone trying to secure this deal. Now, the actual exchange, Trevor, happened at an airport in Turkey. There were 7 different planes holding these prisoners, and when they land there at Joint Base Andrews any moment now, this is going to be a hugely emotional moment. Each one of these prisoners has gone through unimaginable suffering, uncertainty, and agony, and they are going to be greeted not only by their families but also by President Biden and by Vice President Harris, both of whom were intimately involved in securing their release.
And we're watching live pictures, Selena, as you're saying that at Joint Base Andrews, what appears to be a motorcade, potentially from President Biden or Vice President Harris, as they are moving in, getting ready to greet this plane. Something that the president really drew a lot of attention to, Selena, when talking about this was the value of these alliances. And while, yes, I'm sure part of that was wanting to make sure that those allies received the proper credit, giving the proper context to Americans, it also might have been to draw contrast to former President Trump and the criticism that he's had for our NATO allies. Did you happen to read between the lines at all in what the president was saying, talking about allies and getting this deal done?
Absolutely, Trevor. That was President Biden, without naming names, criticizing Donald Trump and his isolationist approach. President Biden was very clear there that this deal happened because of America's leadership, America's allies, and America's friendship. This deal is going to be a critical part about President Biden's legacy, someone who has always valued those friendships that he's built over these years with these various foreign leaders. And U.S. officials have made it clear that this historic deal could only have happened with President Biden's leadership and him personally reaching out to these leaders to secure this deal. And even though, Trevor, President Biden is not going to be going for a second term, what this does show is what he had committed to when he announced he was dropping out, that he is committed to finishing the job, completing his goals both at home and abroad.
And this was a deal, Selena, that wasn't just achieved due to diplomacy, shaking hands. It did require some sacrifices, too. It required the United States giving up a number of people who've been convicted, charged with very serious crimes. Can you give us some details as to which Russians were released and what we know about them?
Well, Trevor, one of the key reasons why this was such a complicated prisoner swap was that Russia insisted that convicted murderer Vadim Krasikov be released as part of this prisoner swap. But he was being held in Germany. So President Biden, he personally reached out to the Chancellor of Germany to press him to try and agree to be a part of this deal. But the contrast between who Russia released and who the U.S. and its allies released just shows you the split screen here. Russia is releasing people who were convicted in these sham trials, whereas Russia received people who are convicted of very serious crimes. And the vice president and the president today, they both said that there are still many Americans that are being detained wrongfully around the world, not just in Russia, and they are going to try to do everything they can to release them, that this is not over yet.
Yes, definitely not. And while I do think that perhaps the Russian government would say, well, Evan Gershkovich was also convicted of a serious crime, given they convicted him of being a spy, we do want to point out they never released any evidence showing that his trial was kept behind closed doors. All right, Selena Wang for us at the White House also. We continue to watch Joint Base Andrews as we await this plane. We saw that motorcade making its way through. And, of course, this has been a very long day as this developed. We'd first gotten that word, and then we watched as these released Americans were then moved between. We saw the first footage of them in Turkey, where they first made their way into the hands of the American military, bringing themselves back here. So we want to work you through everything that came to be today. And our Mary Bruce, our chief White House correspondent, takes a look at how we got here.
After years of agony and painstaking negotiations behind the scenes, tonight these are the first images of the American prisoners leaving Russia, their first tastes of freedom, seen on a bus to the airfield, then being led across the tarmac by soldiers and onto a waiting plane. Among them, Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, appearing to crack a smile in his seat. It is the largest, most complicated prisoner swap since the Cold War, playing out this afternoon in tense moments on an airfield in Ankara, Turkey. It's a sweeping deal involving 24 prisoners in at least 6 different countries. 4 prisoners released to the United States. American citizens Gershkovich, former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, Russian-American journalist Alsu Kurmasheva, and U.S. green card holder Vladimir Kara-Murza, a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and a critic of the Kremlin. Back at the White House, the president gathering their families in the Oval Office. The moment the swap was complete, the president telling them the good news. Then getting on the phone, the families speaking for the first time with their loved ones, knowing they are finally on their way home. On the other end of the line, the Americans, all smiles, posing for pictures with the American flag, and then boarding the plane to finally make their way to the U.S. Shortly after the president, the families by his side announcing it to the world.
Their brutal ordeal is over, and they're free.
The president noting Kurmasheva's daughter, Miriam, will now be able to celebrate her 13th birthday tomorrow with her mother by her side.
Now she gets to celebrate with her mom. That's what this is all about. Families able to be together again, like they should have been all along.
Biden heralding the deal as a sign of the power of diplomacy.
The deal that made this possible was a feat of diplomacy and friendship. Friendship. Multiple countries helped get this done. They joined the difficult, complex negotiations at my request, and I personally thank them all again.
The president directly involved in the negotiations. Even the hour before Biden announced he would not seek re-election, the president working the phones, trying to get this deal across the finish line. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan also deeply involved, today overcome by the emotion of the moment and relief.
I spent a lot of time with the families of Evan and Paul and Alsu, and most of the time, as you can imagine, those are tough conversations, but not today. Excuse me. Today was a very good day.
Tonight, we are told initially talks also included the possible release of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny, but he died in February behind bars. An administration official saying it felt like the wind had been taken out of our sails, but they still saw a path forward, just a more rocky one. The linchpin to negotiations, Russia's insistence that it include the release of convicted murderer, Russian hitman Vadim Krasikov. But he was being held in Germany. President Biden then reaching out directly to the German chancellor.
This deal would not have been made possible without our allies. Germany, Poland, Slovenia, Norway, and Turkey, they all stepped up, and they stood with us. They stood with us. And they made bold and brave decisions. Released prisoners being held in their countries who are justifiably being held, and provided logistical support to get the Americans home. So for anyone who questions whether allies matter, they do. They matter.
Vice President Kamala Harris also appealing to allies face-to-face at a global security summit in February. Today, she too is celebrating.
We never stopped fighting for their release. And today, in spite of all of their suffering, it gives me great comfort to know that their horrible ordeal is finally over.
Gershkovich's release comes just 13 days after he was sentenced to 16 years in a Russian penal colony in a secret trial with no public evidence presented, convicted for what the U.S. government called fabricated charges of espionage. The 32-year-old was the first American journalist arrested for spying in Russia since the Cold War, detained in March 2023 while on assignment, accused of passing information to the CIA. Tonight, the Wall Street Journal's newsroom erupting in cheers at the news of his release. His family saying in a statement, "We have waited 491 days for Evan's release, and it's hard to describe what today feels like. We can't wait to give him the biggest hug and see his sweet and brave smile up close." Paul Whelan had been behind bars for nearly 6 years, serving a 16-year sentence for similar sham espionage charges. The 54-year-old security consultant was visiting Russia for a friend's wedding when he was arrested. slapped with charges that he, his family, and the U.S. fiercely denied. In all, 16 individuals held in Russia now free, including some Russian political prisoners. In exchange, allies releasing 8 Russian prisoners, tonight welcomed home by President Putin.
All right, that's our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, reporting for us tonight, giving us all that background. We do want to go back out to Joint Base Andrews there, as you're starting to see more people fill in. A lot of the families expected to come in also, waiting for this plane to arrive as it's on its way from Turkey. We did just receive some news from a senior administration official, so we know that this plane's going to land there in Maryland. The families will be there, ready to greet their family members as they're home. The president expected to be there. The vice president expected to be there. And then these freed prisoners, the 3 Americans, so Paul Whelan, Evan Gershkovich, Alsu Kurmasheva, and then also that green card recipient, Vladimir Kara-Murza, they are going to be offered a flight to San Antonio. There's a military base there that has some medical facilities where they will be offered post-isolation support. As you might imagine, it has been quite a difficult stretch for these people. We've heard from some prisoners who'd spent some time in Russia. A man who was captured while fighting in Ukraine, he had been kept as a POW, talked about the difficulty of transitioning back into regular life. And certainly this is a joyous day for all these people who are free, but it is going to require some work to get them back on their feet as they're back here in the United States. So that senior administration official says to help ease that process, if they want it, they and their families will be offered that flight to San Antonio, though you certainly could not blame these families if they decided that they simply wanted to go home, given everything that they've gone through. We do also have a statement from another person who knows what they've gone through, WNBA star Brittany Griner. She, of course, spent 10 months detained in Russia. And Griner speaking out about the release of these detained Americans, posted on Instagram in part, "We are overwhelmed with joy and relief for the 4 U.S. citizens who returned safely to America today. Although today is one of celebration, our hearts go out to the many Americans still being held hostage overseas and their families." Right now, Brittany Griner's in Paris competing in women's basketball for Team USA at the Olympics. And also in Paris is one of our international reporters, Patrick Reevell. He joins us there live. Patrick, we do appreciate you making time for us. And I know that with the time zone difference, this probably was not easy, but this is a story that you've been reporting on for quite some time, particularly centered around Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. I know that you've been in touch with some of his closest friends. What's their reaction with this news?
Hi, Trevor. Yeah, as you say, I've been following this story for a long time because I was based in Moscow and I knew Evan because Evan was very well known among the press community in Moscow. He was well known as a very talented, brilliant journalist. And it's important to understand that some of his closest friends were journalists, they were Moscow correspondents, and of course they're just enormously relieved. It's been great to watch over the last few hours the celebrations, including in the newsroom of the Wall Street Journal, people there applauding and cheering, being addressed by a very emotional editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal. And people there, I think, are really they're waiting for this moment where he's going to step off the plane and really the ordeal will be over and he will see his family again and they know that they can celebrate. I think it's also important to note that for the last 18 months that Evan has been held prisoner in Russia, his colleagues and in particular his close friends from Moscow have been mounting this extraordinary campaign to keep his case in the public eye, lobbying to get him freed and also just trying to support him, having letters translated, thousands of letters translated that have been sent to him so that they could be sent to him in Russia. And so, of course, this is just a huge moment that they're waiting for now, for him to step off that plane and see his family again.
Something that they've been working on for quite some time. In fact, the people that we're looking at, we have a live video right there from Joint Base Andrews, Patrick. We're seeing some of Evan's colleagues from the Wall Street Journal. They are the ones waiting there. They're going to be ready on the tarmac to greet him when he's able to make his way off the plane. And clearly all of that effort, they were constantly putting it in the Wall Street Journal, just reminders that Evan was being wrongfully detained here. I would love, Patrick, if you could give us some context. So, of course, there are many other people who are considered wrongfully imprisoned, and only so many of them were freed. Paul Whelan had been detained going back almost 6 years. He was sentenced in 2018. In the meantime, we did see some other Americans, Trevor Reed, Brittany Griner, who we just heard a statement from. They were freed before he was. Can you give us any kind of insight as to how these decisions are made? Who is left behind? Who gets to come home?
Yeah, Trevor, I think one of the things that makes this huge swap all the more remarkable is how difficult it is to try and agree these prisoner exchanges. I mean, I've been covering Paul Whelan's case since the beginning. I remember when he was arrested back in late 2018. And as you say, he was passed over a number of times in previous prisoner exchanges when Trevor Reed was released and then when Brittany Griner was also released. And that's, of course, heartbreaking for his family. And what we understand is that for a long time, the US was unable to find a Russian who they were comfortable giving up in exchange for Paul Whelan. And in this case, ultimately, what we understand from US officials was that the person that Russia insisted on getting was this FSB assassin, Vadim Krasikov, who was being held in Germany and who was exchanged today. It was understood that without him, they were never going to get Paul Whelan out and the many others who they've also been able to free today. But it is extremely difficult. I mean, they have to also confront this very difficult moral challenge, that it is a moral dilemma where Russia is taking people hostage, and the fear has always been that if you release, if you trade hostages with Russia, they will try and take more, that it encourages them to take more. But ultimately, I think over the years, we've seen the American government's attitude to this evolve, and they've come to believe that ultimately Russia, will try and take people hostage, and you have to try and get people out when you can.
And that was something that I did ask John Franks, who's going to be with us on set in a little bit. We've spoken with him. Thankfully, we haven't seen the data that shows Russia's relying on that leverage, but logically it does create that concern that it might continue here. Can you give us, Patrick, some historical context? As we've been saying, this is the biggest prisoner exchange since the fall of the Soviet Union. So I would imagine you've never seen anything like this. Is this totally unprecedented from what you've seen as an international reporter?
I think, yes, absolutely. I have not seen anything like this. I've seen, one for one, two for two. There were, back in the early 2010s, there was a large spy swap. But what's particularly remarkable about this exchange is the number of Russian political prisoners who've also been freed. Not only the well-known Americans, Paul Whelan and Evan Gershkovich, but also, over a dozen Russian political prisoners, including some of the best known, Vladimir Kara-Murza, who is, arguably now Russia's best-known political dissident, as well as Ilya Yashin, who's a close friend and associate of the late Alexei Navalny. But not only that, also Russian political dissidents who are not as well-known, not that famous, but who, for example, have done small acts opposing Russia's war in Ukraine. And so that, I think, is also remarkable that the Biden administration chose to use this opportunity to get as many of them out as it did.
All right, Patrick Reevell joining us from Paris. Patrick, a story that you've been on for quite some time. We appreciate your insight. Thank you very much for your reporting. We do want to go back to Joint Base Andrews, as there's been a lot of different activity, including what appears to potentially be President Biden's motorcade. So let's go back to our Jay O'Brien. Jay, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, Trevor, things are starting to get in place here. So we saw the vice president's motorcade pull in not long ago, and we have a pool report now that President Biden is entering Joint Base Andrews. Again, those are the two principals we know will be here. Of course, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and then the families of those three wrongfully detained Americans. Additionally, we know that in that motorcade are a number of senior advisors to President Biden. Chief among them is Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, who was so instrumental in putting this deal together, who has on his desk in his office various items to remind him of the Americans wrongfully detained abroad. But the thing that we continue to come back to here, Trevor, as you and I discussed, are the families that will be here, the families who have not seen their loved ones in quite some time. In the case of Paul Whelan's family, nearly 6 years. And these are families that have had to fight for their loved ones to make sure that they were in the conversation, whether it's the Wall Street Journal, who did consistent reporting on Evan Gershkovich's wrongful detention. In fact, there are several senior leaders from the Wall Street Journal I spotted who are gathered here alongside Wall Street Journal reporters, some of whom are here to cover this, some of whom are here to say that they just wanted to greet Evan Gershkovich as he arrives on U.S. soil. And then, of course, Paul Whelan's sister, Elizabeth, who will also be here tonight, who President Biden, as we discussed, made a remark that she can't camped out in the Oval Office to try to make sure that her brother was on the top of mind for this administration. I talked to one source familiar with these negotiations, with these wrongful detainee negotiations, who said that Elizabeth Whelan was a quote-unquote pit bull in making sure the administration did not forget about her brother. And I've talked to sources who say if you are the family member of an American who is wrongfully detained abroad, that is essentially what you have to do. Remind the American people and remind the administration of your loved one.
Absolutely, and we've been watching those families do that, banging the drum over and over, week after week, month after month. Jay, we appreciate that, and we know you're going to keep us honest as more activity happens there at Joint Base Andrews. But we do want to dig a little bit deeper on these families, because earlier today, I got to speak with the family of the third American citizen that's on that plane. In just a few moments, we're going to see Alsu Kurmasheva. She's a Russian-American journalist for the U.S. government-funded Radio Free Europe. We're going to see her walk down the steps of that plane at Joint Base Andrews, finally set foot on U.S. soil for the first time since October. She was taken into Russian custody last year, arrested, visiting family there in Russia. And last month, she was sentenced to more than 6 years in prison on political charges related to her work as a journalist. Earlier today, I spoke with her husband and her daughter about hearing that news that she was coming home. Well, joining us now is her husband, Pavel Buturin, and their daughter, Bibi. Thank you both so much for making time for us on what I'm sure is an overwhelming day. Pavel, if you could just first tell us how you learned this news that your wife was going to be coming home.
Well, we got the call from the White House that we were invited to the White House. We were uncertain, so much so that we even hoped to get to the Taylor Swift concert that we were supposed to go to this Friday. But, you know, I'm still in disbelief. I think I'll believe it when I actually see Alsu and we are able to hug her. It's been an unreal day, surreal, really. Mm-hmm.
Even when you were called to the White House, did you think it was because you were going to get this great news?
I think we thought, well, we can't be called to the White House for bad news. So we were very happy to get the call, and we're so thankful for everything that's happening today.
And I believe you got to speak with Alsu, right?
Yeah, we had a phone call with her, and it was just amazing. And it was so good to hear her voice, and she's in good spirits, and she's so happy to be coming home to us.
And the setting of that call was very special. And, you know, we're standing right next to President Biden, surrounded by the other families. And it was something very special to us.
Alsu has been in custody since October. I can't imagine what this stretch of time has been like for you, but if you could elaborate on what it has been like and either your hopes or maybe times of hopelessness.
I think for me, definitely, it was very discouraging not having my mom with me, especially for so many months. I missed her. I still miss her more than I can even say. And so I'm so grateful and happy that she's coming back to me.
How do you feel knowing?
For more than 9 months, she was denied basic human dignity. She was locked up in horrific prison conditions. She was denied phone calls with us, with the family, or U.S. consular visits. And she was deprived of proper medical care. So we can't wait to hug her and to begin the process of helping her integrate into the free world after many months of this unjust imprisonment.
Of course. And knowing that she's free from that and she's hours away from being back with the two of you, how are you feeling now?
My sister and I and my dad were just absolutely overjoyed, and we can't believe this has happened.
Do you plan on being there when the plane lands?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, for sure.
You nearby Joint Base Andrews?
Yeah, we're in D.C.
Yeah. We're scheduled to travel there soon.
You mentioned the plans for the Taylor Swift concert. I would imagine that has been scrapped, but this is probably better.
Yeah, we think so.
We're still hoping to get there, to get to a Taylor Swift concert.
Maybe someday down the road.
Because we had to cancel Alsu's ticket too and get a refund. So yeah, Alsu's a huge fan, and so we're hoping to get to the concert all together, all the four of us.
And Bibi, it's your sister's birthday tomorrow?
Yeah, it is. She's turning 13.
What a gift. What did she have to say?
She's very happy about our mom coming home, and it's just the best birthday present ever.
Of course. Well, Bibi, Pavel, thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you.
So that is the husband and the daughter of Alsu Kermasheva, just two family members of so many who we know are rejoicing today as this plane, in just minutes, will be touching down. 3 American citizens, a U.S. green card holder, all finally back on U.S. soil, brought back to the U.S. after being wrongly detained in Russia. And our coverage of this historic prisoner swap continues right after this.
Whenever news breaks,
we are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal surprise attack by Hamas.
On the ground in Ukraine, reporting from Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
In Rolling Fork, this tornado tore through this little town.
From the most devastating disaster in Hawaii.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
In Iceland, let's go.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
From the front lines, from southern Israel.
Outside the Gaza Strip.
In Beirut.
From the FBI.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there.
You're streaming
ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning.
To catch you up with what happened overnight. Police in riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about. The migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th hole.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We are part of an operation.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate. Militants came in from different directions.
Nuclear reactor.
So you have a couple loaded and ready to go.
The house is destroyed, but the flag.
Not a tear in it.
How important it made to USA. Great work.
Hi. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ismail? David.
I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different.
The critics agree.
Hated the Brat Pack. What a disaster.
Why did we take it as an offense?
Andrew?
I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium.
1985?
I think we could have.
She wanted to be a star. She wanted to be a mother. And Danny Lynn is her legacy.
And to be really honest, I didn't know a whole lot about Anna, her early years. I thought, why not go back to Anna's beginnings?
You don't own me. I'm not your property.
What happens when her family goes in search for Anna, her possessions, her secrets, and
why no one called 911 sooner is never fully answered.
When the autopsy is released, it is shocking.
The 2020 event special, Friday on ABC.
Reporting from the war in Ukraine, I'm Ian Pannell. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
And we are back with breaking news tonight. Just minutes from now, 3 Americans and a U.S. green card holder will be arriving here on U.S. soil after a historic prisoner swap. And we are monitoring these live images from Joint Base Andrews. The arrival of those Americans, we're waiting on that, but it does appear that we've got some pretty high-ranking company that have already made their way there. President Biden, we're told there, the motorcade there, the Beast, it would appear on screen. And we also saw earlier, Vice President Kamala Harris, her motorcade appeared to be arriving too. We had been told that both the President and the Vice President of the United States would be on site to greet these 4 people coming back after they were wrongfully detained in Russia, part of this gigantic swap of prisoners, something we have not seen since the Soviet Union. We, of course, have all eyes on the tarmac there at Joint Base Andrews as we wait for the arrival of this plane. In total, 24 prisoners changing hands, 7 countries involved. This was a massive deal, the biggest one we've seen since the fall of the Soviet Union. And these are circumstances that, while somewhat prevalent, and certainly not the first circumstance in which we've seen Americans involved in a prisoner swap, someone wrongfully detained that we wanted to bring home. It's not the first time that that has happened. but there's not a lot of people that can relate to that. We wanted to get some context of what that might feel like. And earlier today, I spoke with a man who went overseas to Ukraine to fight in the war, was detained in Russia, captured by Russian forces, held there, and then was released as part of a prisoner swap as well. I spoke to him about what it's like, that moment when you do arrive back on U.S. soil, what it's like to then adjust to life afterwards once you're free from capture. So there are, of course, anybody going through a prisoner swap is going to have a unique experience, but you are one of the few people who might have at least some idea what Paul Whelan and Evan Gershkovich are dealing with and what they're going through tonight. Walk us through what that moment is like from being a prisoner to learning that you're being freed.
It's kind of a roller coaster. You know, I do have to point out that I was a POW, which is much different than being held as a prisoner in Russia. And so, you know, the treatment I received was very different. And, you know, we weren't told at all that we were being exchanged or being released. Our final 24 hours in their custody was pure torture. It was absolute hell. And we didn't know if we were moving prisons or being exchanged or if this was going to be a mass execution. We kind of thought it was going to be the last one. So I don't think it wasn't until we landed in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia that most of us started going, we might actually be getting released. This might be an exchange. And then, of course, you know, after medical checkups there, we were flown back. Our families flew us back to the States. And that first reunion with family was indescribable. It was absolutely so good. And so, you know, I'm so happy for the prisoners that they've been released. I'm so happy for their families that they're getting them back. You know, it's going to be a lot for a while, though. They're going to have a lot to deal with, and it's going to be a bunch of highs and lows. And so, you know, I wish them the best in their recovery.
That was what I was going to ask about, Alex, because obviously this is not just like flipping a switch. Okay, welcome back to the United States. Go on with your life. What's that process like of transitioning back into day-to-day life here?
Sure. I mean, we're coming in this September will be the 2-year anniversary of my release, and I'm still dealing with a lot of things. You know, like I said, their conditions are a little bit different, but our diet was so horrible that when I first came back, you know, everybody thought, oh, you were starving. You lost 30 pounds. Like, surely you wanted to eat. But I had to ease back into eating. We had to be really careful with, you know, not too many spices, not too many meat fats, you know, anything that could upset my stomach. It was a whole lot of late nights just kind of processing what had happened. It was a whole lot of long discussions with my family about, you know, the horrible things they had done to me. It's a lot of work. And you know, especially somebody like Paul, he's been in there for over 5 years. And so his life is going to be drastically different. I saw his family say that, you know, he'd been gone so long that he lost his home and he lost his job, and they're not really sure how he's going to integrate back into the regular world. And, you know, he's going to have a very, very difficult time, just like we all do. It's a whole lot of just readjusting to being back in a normal place with rights and people that love you and food and all kinds of things.
Of course. These are, of course, really complicated diplomatic matters that take a lot of negotiation, and it's a really odd position for a person to be in because you are a commodity that is being traded. I'm curious, when you're involved in a prisoner swap and then you eventually learn that you are being freed and that's the case, did they give you any details of what happens behind the scenes, or is it simply, we brought you home?
When I got released, we were lucky enough to go up to D.C. and see our Congress people and State Department and, you know, a bunch of the other people that were involved in our release. And so we asked our State Department contact, we said, well, you know, how did Saudi Arabia get involved in this? Why were they the mediator? And he said, well, you'll have to wait for the book. So, you know, they really don't tell us much at all. Yeah.
Well, I hope they give you a free copy of the book at least.
I hope so too.
I do know that you've since returned to Ukraine doing humanitarian work.
Correct. Last summer, I was there for about 6 weeks doing humanitarian work, and then I just recently returned from my 3rd trip there, and this time I was working with the National Guard for training and fundraising purposes, and I was there for 4 months, and so a lot of it I was just getting to live the average life of a Ukrainian during this war.
I would imagine that this still shapes who you are every single day. Is that accurate?
Every single day, yeah, good and bad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we wish you a continued recovery in that regard. Alex Drueke, really appreciate your time and your perspective. And that was from earlier this evening. We want to take you live as you are watching this airplane carrying 3 American citizens who'd been wrongly detained in Russia back to U.S. soil. That plane just about to touch down at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. It has been quite a long journey, months, years in the making for these American citizens. Finally home now in a day that will be written about in history books, the largest swap of prisoners that we've seen going back to the Cold War. In total, 24 people exchanged, 7 different countries involved. And on that airplane, Paul Whelan, Evan Gershkovich, Alsu Karmasheva, all here, their families waiting for them, the president waiting, the vice president waiting. And this was something that took quite a long time, a lot of negotiations to get done. We know that once the deal was finalized earlier this morning, they were taken first to Turkey and then put on that plane and made the long journey home. They are finally here. And we expect that President Biden, the vice president, will be going up to greet them. But certainly we know that there are many family members, many colleagues that are very excited to see them arrive. And while we wait for that, as of course, even though they have precious cargo on board, they still have to follow all the regulations for taxiing. I have a guest here with me in studio while we wait. John Franks, he's spokesperson for the Bring Our Families Home campaign. John, as we were talking, we were waiting on this plane. You said to me, I've waited on these planes before. It's still an airplane. But it is still, I would imagine, as somebody in your line of work that's helped with a lot of the process of bringing these wrongfully imprisoned people home, has to be very satisfying every time. What are you feeling seeing this plane touch down?
It is, but it does feel like the final approach is in slow motion, because you could be standing there and just you can see the light, the landing lights off in the distance, and it just seems to take forever. And, you know, for them to go through their procedures, open the door, it takes a second for them. I mean, it just feels like you're standing out there and frozen in time.
One thing that you had noted while we were waiting is that you were curious about the size of the aircraft because there's more people coming home than usual for something like this. Give us some historical perspective. Have you seen something of this size done before?
In terms of swap, no. But they did just pull, when they cleared the decks in Venezuela, there were, man, I think there were 6 prisoners that came back on one plane. So they've done bigger ones before.
So we have all these people here waiting, obviously cordoned off. You are on an active tarmac. You are at a military base. There's only so many places that they can go. They're waiting patiently. We have media. We have members of the Wall Street Journal ready to meet their coworker, Evan Gershkovich, and all the families, too. Of course, there's going to be some protocol, especially when you have the president there. So what happens next here, John?
Oh, I imagine you'll see the door open and the captain get out, and it'll be a minute. It could be 10, 15 minutes before you actually see the prisoners come out.
Just taking their time.
Taking their time. There's likely people from the program in San Antonio, the post-isolation support activity on board that airplane, because they usually go for the pickups. So they, you know, they take their time, and then you see them come down. That's the most satisfying moment.
Right.
You know it's done.
That term post-isolation support, what is that?
This is the same program that Bo Bergdahl went through when he came back. The Army operates probably the world's most successful hostage reintegration program at Joint Base Sam Houston in San Antonio. So, you know, there's a medical component, there's a psychological component, and, you know, let's put it this way, clients of mine that have gone there have all succeeded.
Oh, very happy to hear that. And again, that's an offer, as we've heard from a senior administration official, that these 3 citizens and their families, they've had that offer. They can catch a flight to San Antonio if they so choose in order to help reintegrate after what has certainly been a traumatizing stretch for all 3 of them and for their families, too. So as we watch this plane continuing to taxi here, John, give us perspective of how much effort goes into this. This is not something where they called up Russia today and said, hey, you want to make a trade? This took months and months from what we hear. What exactly has to happen in order to make a prisoner swap go through?
Well, this one was particularly hard because the primary prisoner that they wanted was in somebody else's custody, and the Germans weren't so fond of the idea of giving Krasikov back. You know, he was identified as their target some time ago, and it's taken a while to put the diplomatic pieces in place to get the Germans comfortable with letting him go.
There was also the complications with Alexei Navalny, I believe, basically a resistance leader who was taken into custody in Russia. We've heard from administration officials that they were trying to free him as well. Of course, he died back in February. We heard from the Secretary of State talking about how that kind of threw a wrench in the whole plan. They thought they'd lost momentum. They kept working on this. You're very familiar. Well, I know you helped get Trevor Reed free from Russia. You're familiar with Whelan. You're familiar with Gershkovich. What are the conditions like as they're being held?
You know, and I know best from Trevor Reed's descriptions to me, it's surreal. You know, he describes being fed rotten cat food. I remember at one point he had been, you know, in a penal colony, you're required to do hard labor. And Trevor thought it was immoral to work for his captors. So he got thrown into solitary for refusing to cooperate. And, you know, they wouldn't let him wear enough clothing to stay warm. Mordovia is below 0 Fahrenheit most of the winter. It was just cruelty for cruelty's sake.
And we see, as the plane has finally stopped now, we get a quick zoom in of the pilot. I don't know that he wanted to have his close-up, but he got it for at least a second of time here. So, John, you talked a little bit about the post-isolation support, basically treating these people, you know, like as if they were hostages, and we're watching the media as they're slowly moving in, welcoming them, and we're waiting on that door to lower, and then we'll see how long it might take. Could be very soon, could be a couple minutes before we see the people on board, the captain step down, and those 3 American citizens who were wrongly detained here. The process of reintegration, I would imagine it's not a simple one. I would imagine it takes constant work. Alex Drueke, who I spoke to earlier, he talked about how he still deals with it. We're seeing President Biden making his approach also, likely ready to meeting at the bottom of the stairs. Vice President Kamala Harris right there next to him, making that walk, ready to greet these citizens. We had heard that this was a priority for President Biden, that he was heavily involved personally in these negotiations, wanted to make sure that it's through, as he's waving there, and a salute too. And so it is possible that we might very soon see this greeting between the 3 wrongfully detained American citizens back on U.S. soil. John, while we wait for this, and it could be any moment now in which we start to see those stairs descend, but if you could give us some context of what is likely next once these 3 Americans can go back with their lives. Actually, we've got the stairs down right now, John, so I don't want to cut you off.
Not at all. I actually see Paul Whelan's sisters right there behind the president.
In the dress there.
In the dress. That's Elizabeth Whelan. There you go. You see the door come down now. It's probably not long now, actually.
No. You can see the president and the vice president waiting right there. What does this moment feel like to you as somebody that knows what it means personally to these families?
It's...
Actually, and there
Paul
is
Whelan.
Paul Whelan right there. In fact, we have a special report on ABC News we're going to throw to it right now.
With the first pictures of former American prisoners returning to U.S. soil after being held in Russia, you see Paul Whelan there shaking the hands with President Biden. He was wrongly imprisoned in Russia for years. His family members there to greet him, along with Vice President Kamala Harris. You see him shaking her hand. They are part of the welcoming committee at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. The motorcade arrived a short time ago. There is a group of about 20 friends and family members greeting this plane. You see Paul Whelan looking into the eyes of Vice President Kamala Harris, talking about this landing. As you know, this is completing the historic multinational prisoner exchange between the U.S., Russia, and 4 other countries. You see Paul Whelan hugging the president and now the vice president. That plane, which you see there on the tarmac, carrying Paul Whelan, as well as journalist Evan Gershkovich, who works for the Wall Street Journal. Paul Whelan now hugging family members. You hear a buzz cheering. There's the Wall Street Journal reporter. That's Paul Whelan's sister greeting him on the tarmac. We just saw Evan Gershkovich hug Kamala Harris, shaking the president's hand, giving him an embrace as well. He was in prison for 491 days, and I want to go now to Jay O'Brien, who's there on the tarmac. Jay, paint a picture for us of this emotional homecoming. Clearly, there are friends, relatives, and colleagues at the Wall Street Journal there to greet Evan. Jay?
Juju, a silence fell over the press and the others here as you saw that plane coming in. It was the only plane in the sky. It was the only light in the sky. And then as Paul Whelan stepped off the aircraft, it was only fitting. He is the one of these 3 detainees who had been imprisoned in Russia the longest. He stepped off the aircraft just behind me, and this moment is still playing out. He hugged President Biden, he hugged Vice President Harris, and then he went to his sister. This cheer that just erupted, you might be able to hear it, Juju, that is from, oh, he's picking her up. That is Evan Gershkovich picking up what I believe to be his sister, or no, his mother Ella. His mother Ella, the Wall Street Journal has put out a long piece that details everything that she went through, specifically his father as well. She was buttonholing diplomats at dinners by herself. She was a one-woman negotiating machine. She went to Russia with his father. She met, the Wall Street Journal reports, with his interrogators in Russia. She fought tirelessly to bring her son home, and the image you just saw was him pick her up in joy.
It's quite emotional, Jay. What we're now seeing is President Biden greeting the Russian-American journalist Alsu Kumarsheva. She has just descended from the stairs, is now talking to the Vice President, Kamala Harris, presumably talking about this long journey to freedom. They are being met by family members, encouraged to do so as she runs across to greet her family. It's an emotional scene on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews. Jay, I know that you started talking about the diplomatic efforts, but also the quiet efforts and the not so quiet efforts of family members to keep their loved ones in the news and to keep their imprisonment a priority for this administration.
And the strength it took to do that and endure what these families have gone through. Just very quickly, Juju, you see still Alsu Kumarsheva hugging her family, her daughter there in the gray shirt. Her daughter turns 13 years old tomorrow. Her daughter, Miriam, she was the one that President Biden sang happy birthday to at that event earlier today. An emotionally fraught experience for them. You see Elizabeth Whelan on the tarmac behind me as well. She is Paul Whelan's sister. President Biden joked earlier, to your point about families demonstrating strength, that she practically lived in the Oval Office for the past few years, the near 6 years that Paul Whelan has been imprisoned, trying to advocate for her brother's release. I talked to a source close to these negotiations who said that Elizabeth Whelan was a pit bull, constantly holding this administration and other administrations to account, advocating for her brother, and doing it all while undergoing the tumult of her brother not being here.
And you can see her laughing out loud, smiles all around. Paul Whelan now talking again to the Vice President, shaking her hand. I want to bring in Selena Wang, who is at the White House. And Selena, I just want to, as we're seeing these pictures of an emotional reunion, it looks as though the president is speaking. Let's see if we can listen in.
You said earlier that all these negotiations require tough calls. What was the toughest call in this one?
The toughest call on this one for other countries is I asked them to do some things that were against their immediate self-interest, and really very difficult for them to do, particularly Germany and Slovenia. Slovenia came in at the last minute, and I tell you what, the chancellor was incredible. He was incredible.
So what's your message to other countries that may think that taking Americans into their custody, unlawfully detaining them, would be a good way to get something that they want from us?
Hey, look, that's been the case for all of history. My job is to make sure that, number one, they don't get them. And if they do, we get them back. I don't buy this idea that you're going to let these people rot in jail because other people may be captured. We will set out all the notifications to all the other countries, all our citizens, what countries not to go to, what to do, what not to do, and they got to pay attention. I got more work to do. So.
Is
This is an extraordinary day, and I'm very thankful for our president and what he has done over his entire career, but in particular as it relates to these families and these individuals, what he has been able to do to bring the allies together on many issues, but in particular this one. This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day, and you can see it in the families, in their eyes and in their cries.
When did you know you got to do that?
A while ago. We got to make sure, we wanted to make sure everything was in place. And Slovenia made the right move at the right time. So anyway, look, it's time to trust. I mean, really, I mean it. I know everybody thinks I talk about the notion of relationships with foreign policy with other countries. Much of it, and you've heard me kid with Barack, kid me, all politics is personal. It matters. Other leaders trust you, you trust them, and you get things done. And that's how this got done. It's a lot of help. Anyway, thank you.
How worried are you that the
An impromptu press conference with Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris receiving the former prisoners rather, from Russia. Kamala Harris calling it an extraordinary day and thanking the president for his diplomacy. Joe Biden calling it a matter of trust, saying he is delighted that they're home. I want to bring in Selena Wang, who's at the White House. Selena, take us behind the scenes to this very complicated set of negotiations that took place for months, if not years.
Juju, just watching President Biden and Vice President Harris speak there, I'm just struck by the relief and the joy that they feel, because behind the scenes, this has been years of painstaking negotiations and diplomacy to achieve the largest and most complex prisoner swap since the Cold War. President Biden himself has been intimately involved in these negotiations, and you heard him there praising the Prime Minister of Slovenia. In fact, the very day that President Biden announced he was going to drop out of this presidential race on July 21st, when he was still in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, recovering from COVID, he was actually on the phone with the Prime Minister of Slovenia trying to secure this deal. And so for this moment, this is going to be a critical part of President Biden's legacy as well as Vice President Harris's legacy, both of them praising their allies, because this was such a difficult thing, not only for the U.S. to execute, but for all of these other countries to do together.
Selena, I don't want to interrupt you, but there's Evan walking over to a crowd of people, presumably friends, colleagues from the Wall Street Journal. I want to bring in Jay O'Brien again. Jay, give us a sense of what you're hearing and seeing and what you know to be those visitors who are giving him bear hugs now.
Yeah, Juju, so this is about a dozen or so reporters from the Wall Street Journal, some of whom senior executives, some of whom friends and colleagues of Evan Gershkovich, who came here. We heard from Wall Street Journal reporters who said some of them were here to cover this event, just like any other news event. They are reporters, just like Evan is, and then some just came here to greet their friend. And we hear Evan Gershkovich speaking to that gaggle of reporters down there as well. Another thing to note, as we talk about some of the color here at Joint Base Andrews as this plane is landed, earlier before he walked over there, Evan Gershkovich was standing with Paul Whelan, and their families were talking. Two families who, unlike most other families in this country, understand what each other went through. And then there's one more thing to know here that just underscores how emotional this is. So we talked about Miriam, who is Alsu Kurmasheva's youngest daughter. Her 13th birthday is tomorrow. I'm looking at her now. You may not be able to see her in the camera shot. She has not let her mother go since she stepped off that aircraft, Juju.
That's a beautiful note. Thanks for sharing that with us. Selena, I want to bring you back in on this. The president mentioned his allies and how they had to make the toughest call, specifically Slovenia, but also Germany, because they were holding prisoners, including a hitman who had been convicted of murder.
Yeah, Germany was absolutely critical here because key to making the swap happen was Russia insisting that someone be released. Was Vadim Krasikov. He is a convicted murderer, but he was being held in Germany. President Biden had to personally plead the Chancellor of Germany to make this swap happen. This, for the president, underscores the importance of American leadership, of American diplomacy, and American allies. Earlier today, he took a veiled swipe at Donald Trump, saying allies are critical and key.
Another theme that Kamala Harris doubled down on here in Maryland on the tarmac. I want to bring in Patrick Reevell, who for years has lived and worked in Russia for ABC News, knows Evan Gershkovich. I just want to get your reactions, Patrick, to seeing your former counterpart colleague step onto the tarmac to freedom.
Hi, Juju. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a pretty incredible thing to see Evan step off that plane and meet his family and hug his family. Excuse me, sorry.
I can hear the emotion in your voice.
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, I think it should be said Evan was very well known to everyone who worked in Moscow. He was known as a very brilliant correspondent. And also just a very good person. He's incredibly popular. You know, he was known as a deeply committed correspondent. I was just watching him there go over and see our colleagues there on the side. And one of our colleagues there is Andrew Roth of The Guardian, who's a close friend of Evan, who now works in D.C. And who used to work in Moscow until recently. And to see them reunited also was incredible to see. But you know, Evan, as I say, was a deeply committed reporter, and most foreign reporters left Russia after the invasion of Ukraine, but Evan chose to keep going back because he believed it was crucially important at this time that people understand what Russia is thinking, what Russia wants in this time of an immense standoff between the West and Russia. And he paid a very difficult, a terrible and unjust price for that. And so to see him free now, see him with his family who've gone through so much, I think it's also important to say that his friends as well have mounted this extraordinary campaign to try and keep attention on Evan. Most of his closest friends are Moscow correspondents, and they were trying very, very hard to keep attention on his case, but also to support him. They've translated thousands of letters that were written to him and sent them to prison while he was there. So this is just an extraordinary thing to see, Juju.
It is indeed extraordinary. Patrick, we're going to try to listen in again to the president, who seems to be talking.
You said, sir, that family is everything earlier today. What has it meant to be with the family all day today as they are now finally reunited with their loved ones?
You can appreciate, look, anyone who's lost family or worried about whether family would come home, whatever the circumstance was, has to understand the extreme, and you've heard me say it before. My dad used to say family is the beginning, the middle, and the end. And it really is. It's about who we are. It's about who we are as a country.
What is your message tonight to Vladimir Putin?
Stop.
What's your message to the Americans?
Stop,
sir. The American people are watching this broadcast tonight, and I think it's fair to say they're celebrating with the families. What's your message to the American people?
There's nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Remember who the hell we are. We're the United States of America. The United States of America. We put back together relationships with countries that we haven't had before. We rebuilt NATO. We rebuilt the circumstances that allowed this to happen. That's why it happens.
And Mr. President, should American journalists ever feel afraid about reporting abroad?
I think, look, no matter where you are, there's certain places that you're going to be afraid. I mean, the idea is never going to be afraid. You'd never show up anywhere in the Middle East. You wouldn't show up anywhere in Russia. You wouldn't show up anywhere. It matters. It matters to be aware of what you're going into and not to take undue chances because I'm going to come get you.
Of your many achievements, where does this rank among your many achievements as president?
Well, look, this is, to me, this is about the essence of who we are as a country. It really is about personal relationships. It's about family. It's about being able to have access to the people you love and you adore. Imagine how you'd all feel if you were being held captive unfairly. and you had children waiting at home for you. Imagine how you feel. How many of you have children? Raise your hand. Yeah, okay? Imagine being sitting in a prison, not knowing you'll ever get home, wondering what's going on with your children. How they go to bed at night crying, how they ache every night, every day, you're gone. It matters.
Mr. President, we understand that very important call that you made. Prime Minister of Slovenia came hours before you announced that you were going to be leaving the 2024 race. Can you talk to us a little bit about how important it was for you to get this deal done, knowing that you were not going to seek a second term? Was it very important?
I still get it done even if I was seeking a second term. I'm still, you're stuck with me as president for a while, kid. There's no way out, okay? You got me for at least another 100 or 90 days or so. So it did not even do with that. It had to do with the opportunity and trying to convince one last country to say, okay, they'll step up.
Mr. President, how critical
this will now be cemented as a part of your one-term legacy. How are you thinking about the rest of your time in office? How are you?
Oh, we can talk about that another day.
President Chancellor Scholz's commitment to getting this deal across the finish line? Could it have been possible without that agreement that he made?
Mr. President, your reaction tonight.
It's a very good night. It's a very good night, and it's testament to the work that we've prioritized under Joe Biden's leadership in our administration, which is the importance of building alliances, building the strength that we have through diplomacy to have outcomes like this. And there's so much at stake right now in our country and in this upcoming election, including who has which approach to understanding America's strength. This is an example of the strength of American leadership in bringing nations together to deliver Americans.
Kamala Harris on the tarmac. You're watching Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews. An extraordinary scene. Selena Wang, I want to bring you in from the White House because this is quite unusual. Joe Biden taking at least a half dozen questions by my count, talking about his legacy, talking about this negotiation, talking about the hostages coming home, that this is about who we are as a country.
I've traveled a lot with the president, and I can say, Juju, it is rare to see the president take that many questions from the press. It was almost like a mini press conference there. He was speaking off the cuff. He was praising allies. He's taking a full-on victory lap here after something he's worked on for months, for years. The president making very clear that his message to Russia is simply to stop. To stop. The president making very clear that this could not have been done without American leadership and diplomacy. We also heard the vice president praising the president there as well. But again, Juju, as you say, this is quite a rare and extraordinary scene here. He is clearly joyful, celebratory, and relieved that this came together.
Selena Wang, thank you. I want to also bring in Jay O'Brien. We see Evan still shaking hands, still talking to the press line. It seems as though he's doing both the work of what journalists need, is the information, but also really reconnecting with some of his colleagues. Jay, paint a picture for us.
I could barely hear. He is, and a cheer went up here multiple times every time Evan Gershkovich showed his face because there is such a contingent of Wall Street Journal staff here. There were cheers even while President Biden was speaking just moments ago, as you recap with Selena, talking about his legacy, talking about how large this event looms in his legacy. And I can tell you, as President Biden was speaking, talking about painting a scene, I was standing here, he was standing right here below me, speaking with myself and other reporters, and you could see the joy on his face. You could see the happiness on his face. You could see that this is something that he wanted to push over the goal line, as Selena and others have reported that he has. And the vice president said as much as well. This is clearly a moment for them of both praising our allies and the work that was done to get this deal done, but also praising the work that this administration did in trying to get this together. The tireless work that both the president's most senior aides like Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, did, and the president himself, as Selena noted, on that call on his own just hours before he put out that statement saying that he was not running for re-election.
Jay O'Brien, thank you for all of the color from the tarmac. I want to bring in Patrick Reevell one last time. Patrick, you saw him shaking hands, hugging people, talking to members of the press, as well as clearly friends and colleagues. Give me a sense of, you know, this is a man who's faced by the State Department's own designation, wrongful detention in Russia. What's it like seeing him smile and walk across the tarmac like that?
Yeah, it's incredible to see, right? I think, and everyone there feels it. I think you can see President Biden feels it. It's just remarkable to feel that this is finally becoming real. I think, you know, people all day, there was a very tense wait for the families around this hostage exchange, because even though when it became public that it was taking place, in fact, it was still ongoing. You know, the planes were on the tarmac in Turkey, and many, many people, and, you know, people I've been talking to have been saying they didn't dare truly believe that it had happened until they saw the photos of Evan. But I think, I mean, speaking personally, seeing him walk off the plane, seeing Paul Whelan walk off the plane, that's when it really becomes real, when you see them meet up with their families. I think also, you know, it should be said about Paul Whelan that this has been such an incredibly long, appalling ordeal for his family. We see his sister there, who has had to take on this huge burden of trying to lobby the US government and also the Russian government to try and release her brother for years, for over 5 years. I remember speaking to Paul Whelan when he was in a prison camp in Russia back in 2020. He described the conditions there to me as Dickensian. He said, though, that he'd managed to befriend some of the Russian prisoners there. He said the guards called him tourist because they all thought it was ludicrous that he was there. They were amused that this American had somehow found himself in this Russian prison camp. And so for these families, for this to finally be over is extraordinary. Of course, now the question is, what comes next? They all have to adapt to this new reality, adapt to being back in normal life. We know that Paul Whelan, his brother, has told us that he will be getting some government support. He will take up the offer to go to this military base where, as in previous hostage cases, counselors with expertise in dealing with people held in long-term detention will assist him. That's being offered to all of the people being brought back. We don't know yet how many of them will take up that offer. But there is now, of course, this long road ahead of trying to adjust just to normal life, Juju.
Patrick Reevell, thank you so much for your perspective, for your insights, and for your years of reporting on this story and from Russia. Patrick, thank you. I also want to thank Jay O'Brien and Selena Wang from the White House. Thank you as we watch the 3 prisoners return to American soil. Of course, we're going to return you now to regular programming. Our coverage will continue on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. We'll have a complete wrap-up, of course, coming up on Nightline. I'm Juju Chang in New York. Good night.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Trevor Ault in for Linsey Davis. We're coming to you tonight with that breaking news, a historic night in Washington after 3 Americans landed on U.S. soil, the first major prisoner swap with Russia in decades, the largest that we've seen going back to the Cold War, and those Americans getting a hero's welcome. You see the first one, Paul Whelan there, greeted by President Biden, Vice President Harris, Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, back hugging his family, and of course, Alsu Kermasheva greeting her. That's her right there with the president, the vice president, and then watch this great moment as she hugs her 2 daughters, Bibi and Miriam, her husband Pavel there, right there behind. Each of them having their moment, stepping off the plane, all 3 of them wrongfully imprisoned. Watch these powerful moments unfold as they made that journey back. The long journey beginning in Russia, going to Turkey, and then the flight here, landing at Joint Base Andrews. This was part of a massive prisoner swap, 24 prisoners exchanging hands, 7 countries involved. As we mentioned, the largest prisoner swap since the fall of the Soviet Union. It's been months in the making. And of course, this is something that we've heard from the Biden administration. This took a ton of work. It took a lot of different effort. It took some compromises. It took the release of a number of Russians who had been convicted of some fairly serious crimes. But as we heard from Biden, the president, this was something that was entirely necessary, that he says, quote, "I am not going to let these people rot in jail." Now, in all, Vladimir Putin turned over 16 prisoners. He got 8 back in return. And we want to get out back to Joint Base Andrews. We have our Jay O'Brien there live on the scene, who was watching these incredible moments and then also watched as the president took some questions afterwards. So, Jay, your reaction watching as those 3 Americans got to step off the plane.
Yeah, things are starting to settle here, Trevor. The plane is still behind me that they came in on, but the word that defines all of this is emotional. So Paul Whelan was the first to get off that aircraft. He greeted President Biden with a hug, then Vice President Kamala Harris, and went right over to his sister, Elizabeth, who had been described to me by a source familiar with these negotiations as a pit bull who fought for nearly 6 years of her brother's detention for his release and held this administration and previous administrations to account to try to get him out. And then, of course, Alsu Kurmacheva came off the aircraft, as did Evan Gershkovich, and both had emotional reunions, Evan Gershkovich particularly with his mother, who picked his mother up off the ground, another family member who had fought so hard for her son's release. And then there was that telling moment that just underscores how impactful it was for these families with Alsu Kurmacheva's daughter. She has been imprisoned in Russia. She's a journalist as well, for nearly a year. And her daughter, she's got 2 daughters, but the youngest, Miriam, President Biden sang happy birthday to her in the White House today because her birthday is today. It's past midnight. She is now 13 years old. And just to underscore the emotionality of this, one of the things I noticed, other reporters up here noticed as well, is that she did not let go of her mother for, it's got to be 10 minutes after her mother got off that aircraft. She did not want to let go of her. It's the first time she's seen her, of course, Trevor, in months.
Yeah, of course. I believe about 9 months for Alsu. It's been 491 days for Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan, nearly 6 years. And of course, it's tough to assess. And in the midst of all of the joy, Jay, how did these former prisoners look to you in terms of their overall health?
You know, the White House has said that they have no serious health issues. They are being offered treatment at a military base in San Antonio, as is typical for Americans who have been freed from being imprisoned abroad. Think back to the Brittany Griner case. She had similar kinds of treatment. They are being offered that. It's unclear if they will take it or not. But in terms of how they look, just my judgment from less than 100 feet away, everyone walked on their own accord. Everybody looked good. Everybody looked overjoyed, frankly, and they hugged their family members. And it was a joyous occasion. We have seen other Americans freed from captivity, particularly in Russia, who are suffering from significant health issues. We did not see, at least on the surface, that this evening.
Yes, certainly no ailments that were overshadowing the joy of all 3 of these people and their families. And of course, we also know, aside from the families, there were some co-workers that were waiting for Evan Gershkovich from the Wall Street Journal. They were ready. They were greeting him. He was all smiles when he got to meet them. What did you see from your vantage point?
They erupted in cheers, Trevor. There is about a dozen or so folks here from the Wall Street Journal, from reporters who are just covering this as any other news event, they said, and to top executives at that paper as well. And when Evan Gershkovich was first spotted right there in the doorway of that aircraft, they erupted in cheers, and they've been cheering every time they've laid eyes on him since. He actually went up there, spoke to some of his colleagues. He hugged them, friends and colleagues. He spoke with reporters. We've been up here, so we didn't necessarily hear what he said. What we did hear is President Biden, who gaggled now twice with reporters, spoke with reporters twice, one just by the aircraft and then one down here right below me. And he talked about a number of things, but he talked about what this means in the context of the U.S.'s role on the world stage and how he leaned on allies to get this done, Trevor.
All right, Jay O'Brien for us there from Joint Base Andrews. Jay, appreciate your reporting. Thank you for staying there late for us. And we saw some of the extraordinary images as these prisoners returned to the U.S. You saw all smiles there, but we do want to point out, you can see President Biden here takes the pin off of his own lapel to affix it to Paul Whelan. And the president, as we heard from Jay, he did later come over, take some questions. Here's what he had to say about the efforts to get these Americans home.
My job is to make sure, number one, they don't get them. And if they do, we get them back. I don't buy this idea that you're gonna let these people rot in jail because other people may be captured.
And the president also made this comment to reporters about his time in the White House.
I still get it done even if I was seeking a second term. You're stuck with me as president for a while, kid. There's no way out, okay? You got me for at least another 100 or 90 days or so.
So that was in a response to the question as to whether he decided to take the initiative on this because he was no longer running for a second term. Let's center this back on those 3 Americans, the returned Americans here. I want to bring in John Franks. He's spokesperson for the Bring Our Families Home campaign. John, appreciate you having great to have you here. You've watched a lot of these. This one, of course, is unique in its own way, as they all are. But what were your big takeaways or anything that you took note of as you watched those 3 Americans get off the plane?
You know, the fact that we saw this at all was remarkable. There was a time in which the government didn't believe that was a good idea, and it, you know, it probably isn't a good idea. But you know, as you notice, the Russian side of this had quite a reception in Moscow, and I think it's, you know, it is important that everybody, that Americans get to see this.
You have interacted with some of these family members. Alsu's daughters, you met them, you knew their names. What do you think this moment means to them?
I think it means the world. I mean, I spent some time with them and their father last week. Very impressive young women, and you know, to get to see them standing tall with their mom tonight is really, you know, fantastic. I'm going to remember it.
Now, I asked Jay to give his assessment of how they looked. Obviously, number one, Jay's not a doctor, but he's also a long ways away, and there's only so much you can tell. As we know, there's a long recovery process, number one, from physical ailments, but also mental, too. What awaits these 3 Americans now with adjusting back to everyday life?
They just have to, you know, if you think about it, they've never, they've had no free will. So now things like ordering from a menu at a restaurant can be tough, just because the decision-making ability has been taken away from them. And then suddenly a million decisions are thrust at them, and you know, it takes a minute to get used to that. But you know, watching them walk down the stairs pretty confidently, I think, you know, Alsu looked like maybe, you know, she'd lost some weight, but other than that, they look like they were in pretty good shape.
Yes, and they certainly looked happy, which is a wonderful sight to see. John Franks, I appreciate you sticking around for us. Good to have you. And great to take in that moment with you. I know that you've been part of a lot of these things. That was fantastic. All right, so we talked about Alsu Kurmasheva, a Russian-American journalist for the U.S. government-funded Radio Free Europe. She was one of those 3 Americans to arrive in the U.S. tonight. We watched her walk down the steps. There she is with her family, her 2 daughters, her husband, with the president and the vice president. But John pointed out that basically once she was greeted, especially by her younger daughter Miriam and by her older daughter Bibi, that they basically never let go of her for 10 months. She had been in captivity since October, was taken into custody in Russia while she was there visiting her family in Russia. She was sentenced last month to more than 6 years in prison on political charges related to her work as a journalist. Now, after we knew that she was going to be released and she was on her way, but before she had arrived, we spoke with her husband, Pavel, and her daughter, Bibi, about what they were expecting and how excited they were. Well, joining us now is her husband, Pavel Buturin, and their daughter, Bibi. Thank you both so much for making time for us on what I'm sure is an overwhelming day. Pavel, if you could just first tell us how you learned this news that your wife was going to be coming home.
Well, we got the call from the White House that we were invited to the White House. We were uncertain, so much so that we even hoped to get to the Taylor Swift concert that we were supposed to go to this Friday. You know, I'm still in disbelief. I think I'll believe it when I actually see Alsu and we are able to hug her. It's been an unreal day, surreal, really.
Even when you were called to the White House, did you think it was because you were going to get this great news?
I think we thought, well, we can't be called to the White House for bad news. So we were very happy to get the call, and we're so thankful for everything that's happening today.
And I believe you got to speak with Alsu, right?
Yeah, we had a phone call with her, and it was just amazing. And it was so good to hear her voice, and she's in good spirits, and she's so happy to be coming home to us.
And the setting of that call was very special. And, you know, we're standing right next to President Biden, surrounded by the other families. And it was something very special to us.
Alsu has been in custody since October. I can't imagine what this stretch of time has been like for you, but if you could elaborate on what it has been like and either your hopes or maybe times of hopelessness.
I think for me, definitely, it was very discouraging not having my mom with me, especially for so many months. I missed her. I still miss her more than I can even say. And so I'm so grateful and happy that she came back to me.
How do you feel
For
knowing?
more than 9 months, she was denied basic human dignity. She was locked up in horrific prison conditions. She was denied phone calls with us, with the family, or U.S. consular visits. And she was deprived of proper medical care. So we can't wait to hug her and to begin the process of helping her integrate into the free world after many months of this unjust imprisonment.
Of course. And knowing that she's free from that and she's hours away from being back with the two of you, how are you feeling now?
My sister and I and my dad were just absolutely overjoyed, and we can't believe this has happened.
Do you plan on being there when the plane lands?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, for sure.
You nearby Joint Base Andrews?
Yeah, we're in D.C.
Yeah. We're scheduled to travel there soon.
You mentioned the plans for the Taylor Swift concert. I would imagine that has been scrapped, but this is probably better.
Yeah, we think so.
We're still hoping to get there, to get to a Taylor Swift concert.
Maybe someday down the road.
Because we had to cancel Sue's ticket too and get a refund. So yeah, Sue's a huge fan, and so we're hoping to get to a concert all together, all the four of us.
And BB, it's your sister's birthday tomorrow?
Yeah, it is. She's turning 13.
What a gift. What did she have to say?
She's very happy about our mom coming home, and it's just the best birthday present ever.
Of course. Well, BB, Pavel, thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you.
More breaking news. The U.S. government has recognized Venezuelan opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner of the presidential election in Venezuela. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in a statement that given the overwhelming evidence, it is clear to the United States and most importantly to the Venezuelan people that Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia won the most votes in Venezuela's July 28th presidential election. Now, in a statement, Blinken did not say the U.S. was recognizing Gonzalez as Venezuela's president, but did call for a peaceful transition in accordance with Venezuelan electoral law. The announcement comes as protesters in Venezuela and governments around the world demand Nicolas Maduro release the vote tallies and conduct an independent review of the election results. Maduro had claimed that he had won. I want to turn now to the race for the White House, with former President Donald Trump doubling down on his attacks against Vice President Kamala Harris after questioning her racial identity. And we are learning some Republicans are expressing embarrassment, but only behind closed doors. ABC's Rachel Scott is in Chicago tonight.
Tonight, facing growing backlash, former President Donald Trump doubling down, challenging Vice President Kamala Harris's racial identity, sharing this photo of her and her family wearing traditional Indian clothing and writing, "Your warmth, friendship, and love of your Indian heritage are very much appreciated." Just 24 hours ago, I asked Trump about his supporters' attacks on Harris as a, quote, DEI hire, DEI being short for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
Harris is both the first black woman and the first Asian American to serve as vice president. She graduated from Howard University, and when she was elected senator, she joined the Congressional Black Caucus.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
Tonight, Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, defending Trump's comments.
Kamala Harris is a chameleon. She goes to Georgia 2 days ago. She was raised in Canada. She puts on a fake Southern accent. She is everything to everybody, and she pretends to be somebody different depending on which audience she's in front of.
And Rachel Scott joins us now. So, Rachel, of course, we know the Harris campaign has been kind of shot out of a cannon, but we're still waiting to learn who her running mate might be. Where are we on the search?
Yeah, Trevor, and she's really running out of time here because the official nominating process for the Democratic Party started today. So she could become the official party nominee as early as Monday. Sources tell us she is expected to announce her running mate by Tuesday. They're supposed to be out on the campaign trail together. And so this vetting process really starting to intensify. Sources also telling us that her team did meet with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, as well as Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Trevor.
And people raising their eyebrows about them campaigning next week in Philadelphia, but we will see. Rachel Scott, thank you very much. Well, tonight, the Middle East is bracing for potential retaliation. It comes after the assassination of the political leader of Hamas, who was killed in Tehran, Iran. Sources tell ABC News a bomb was smuggled into the leader's guest house 2 months ago. It was later detonated remotely, killing him. Iran's supreme leader blames Israel and is vowing revenge. Back here at home, friends, families, and dignitaries honored the life and legacy of longtime U.S. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas today. In Houston, they held a celebration of life with the 74-year-old remembered as a force of nature. Attendees included former President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Vice President Kamala Harris delivered the eulogy.
Sheila Jackson Lee was a change maker. She worked with all her heart to lift up the people of her city, of her state, and of our nation. And to honor her memory, let us continue to fight to realize the promise of America, a promise of freedom, opportunity, and justice, not just for some, but for all.
Jackson was also remembered for her work to establish Juneteenth as a federal holiday. She died last month, weeks after announcing she'd been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. It was a tough day for investors today on Wall Street. The Dow closing down nearly 500 points to close at 40,347. The drop was fueled by worse than expected earnings from Amazon, along with weaker employment, manufacturing, and construction data. There are fears of a slowdown from the U.S. economy weighing heavily on investors who are now looking ahead to tomorrow's monthly jobs numbers. We still have much more to get to here on Prime, including one of the most difficult moments for one of our own, ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas. He shares his journey of digging into the past to discover his ancestry. That's coming up next.
Many people think that most African Americans automatically say, oh, yes, I want to know everything about where I come from, and but for others, the notion of slavery is a painful process.
Whenever news breaks,
we are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal surprise attack by Hamas.
On the ground in Ukraine, reporting from Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
In Rolling Fork, this tornado tore through this little town.
From the most devastating disaster in Hawaii.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
In Iceland, let's go.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
From the front lines from southern Israel.
Outside the Gaza Strip.
In Beirut.
From the FBI.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there.
You're streaming
ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
She wanted to be a star. She wanted to be a mother. And Danny Lynn is her legacy. And to be really honest, I didn't know a whole lot about Anna, her early years. I thought, why not go back to Anna's beginnings?
You don't own me, I'm not your property.
What happens when her family goes in search for Anna, her possessions, her secrets, and
why no one called 911 sooner is never fully answered.
When the autopsy is released, it is shocking.
The 2020 event special, Friday on ABC. What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We are part of an operation.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate. Militants came in from different directions. Nuclear reactor. So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag.
Not a tear in it.
How important it made to USA. Great work.
Hi, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ismail? David.
I'm David Muir.
I know you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Reporting from the Capitol, I'm Rachel Scott. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
From inside America's classrooms to the statues in our communities, there has been a debate across our country about how much of our